I don't know if any of you heard this beeping. I was ready to attack somebody for a cell phone. But it was the smoke alarm from all the incense we were using at the beginning of the celebration. At least the cardinal isn't here. The last time that happened, he was preaching and it was beeping through his whole homily. The fire department called because we're on one of those alarm systems, and I didn't know the password. So in the middle of his homily, the fire trucks arrived. And as gracious as he is, he kept very calm and just kept on preaching. And so will I. Just keep on preaching. This morning, on this 90th anniversary of Veterans Day. And when I think Veterans Day here at the shrine, I think a few years back when Joe Randazzo, of happy memory, wrote the words to Taps, which I believe we're going to sing at the end of the celebration. It's a tradition here. I think a few years ago also of Carl's nephew, Jonathan, from the Coast Guard, who just recently actually got married to a woman in the Coast Guard. Now he's stationed as a Coast Guard pilot in Florida. When he was a student, he would come with his little uniform and he'd play taps for us on the trumpet. For when I think of veterans and Veterans Day, I think of that song, because it's played at funerals as vets are buried. It's played on occasions of political importance to commemorate the living and the dead. Dum ba dum, dum da dum. You know this. Dum ba dum, bum da dum, dum da dum, da 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 dum, bum ba dum. 3 notes. Sol, sol, do, sol, do, mi, sol, do, mi, sol, do, mi, sol, do, mi, sol, mi, do, sol, 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 do. 3 notes. In music, it's a major triad. And the girls there are all nodding because they study music. It's a major triad. But a major triad is a sweet-sounding melody. It's not a minor triad, which is usually somber and sad. Minor, but rather taps us in the heart. Taps us on the head with a major triad, something jubilant almost in its solemnity, something jubilant in its commemoration of the dead, something jubilant and simple in 3 notes, do, mi, sol, a major triad that taps our hearts with great affection and admiration and respect and honor on this 90th anniversary of Veterans Day. And as I was thinking about taps as 3 notes of this major triad, I was thinking that isn't that indeed what we're celebrating as we honor the vets, the living ones and the dead ones? Don't we honor a triad of values? A triad of values that drove them and continues to drive our military forces into the kind of patriotism and the kind of work and commitment that we celebrate today. 3 notes, 3 values. The first I believe, that taps us in the heart is that they do what they do for family. For family. The second, vets do what they do for country. And vets do what they do for God. For family, for country, and for God. Such is a triad, the major triad that we celebrate as these three values tap our hearts and as we sing our taps and rejoice in the living and the dead. For family. And Italian-American war vets, and certainly Polish and African-American war veterans, are all dedicated to family, aren't we? To mothers and fathers, to children. That's the music that leads people to work for peace, to fight for peace, and to die for peace. Family. And you know as well as I know that family, even among Italians, and I can't speak for the other nationalities or races here, but let me say that for Italians, family is always a mixed bag. You know, we sing Mamma, solo per te la mia canzone vola. We sing that about our mama, and then sometimes we want to hit her in the head. And we want to respect our fathers, but sometimes we don't pay attention to them as they grow older. Family for Italians is a wonderful gift. Without family, there could be no food, because food is invented for families, and it is families that is the first value that drives our veterans, to protect and honor and to respect and give dignity to families. Families. For the Italians are indeed mixed bags. Dear friends, the holidays are coming and you'll feel the mixed bags. Because there's some in our families that we find a little odd. There are some in the families that we cut off in our families. And today we gather singing taps, dun, ta, dun, joyfully, asking God at this altar to strengthen us as a family. Also a family of faith. Because that's what moved many of you to go to war. And your family members who went to war, because we believe that we have to protect our family, our children, our husbands and wives, our grandmothers, because family is value. The second note that taps us is for country. Our veterans, and not only our veterans, friends, but the veterans in Poland and veterans around the world not only go to stand and fight for peace because of family, but they go around the world to respect and honor and protect country. And here in the United States, what a country we have. We are built on values, life, liberty, justice for all people. We are built on a democracy that allows people no longer to live under the tyranny of monarchs or the tyranny of dictators, but to live in a country where we can make our voices known through the freedom of voice, the freedom of speech, the freedom of election. We live in a country where we can even disagree with our president and find a platform to do it. In these tea parties that have been going on around the country about health care reform, we can stand up, and our veterans have tapped us in the heart because they have been motivated by country. And the country that we honor and respect in this flag, the country that we honored in the flags that were brought in at the beginning of the Mass. And I didn't know if you noticed that the American flag did not tilt when the others tilted. because this country, you vets, have tapped your life so that this country and its flag would tilt to no other power, but stand for liberty and justice for all men and women, not only for the United States, but to be a beacon of hope for all countries, a beacon of what humanity can be for all countries. But you know, as well as I, that just like families that can be mixed bags, so can our country be mixed bags. When we see in Fort Hood one of our own citizens killing another, when we see, oftentimes, our politicians not living according to the values of honesty and respect, even in the state of Illinois. And so we gather here to pray for our country, the one we fight for and live for, the one that many have died for, so that this country can truly be a country that claims, as we do on our dollar bill, that in God we trust. Dun-ta-dum, dun-ta-dum. 3 notes, 3 values: for family, for country, and for God. Such has been the drive of the veterans, for God. But I ask myself sometimes, when I hear in the rhetoric of the language of politicians and the language of so many in this country, when I hear the word God, I wonder, which God are we talking about? Because even money can become a God, can't it? And today in the readings, in the gospel and in the readings that we have heard, we are given the answer. What God are we talking about? We're talking about a God who loves. A God who loves and invites us even to love our enemies. We're talking about a God who calls us together as brothers and sisters from different races and cultures, different age groups. All of us, as we sit here together, the God we live for and move for is the God who we come to know in Jesus Christ, who demonstrated on the cross, refusing to pay evil with evil and violence for violence, demonstrating on the cross the extremity of this love, and who commands us in the gospel, I command you, love one another as I loved you, so that my joy may be in you and your joy may be complete. For there is no joy, dear sisters and brothers, in killing anybody except in some sadistic way. War is never a joy, but we enter it for family and for country, but we ultimately enter it in the promise of God, who promises us that if we eat this bread and drink this cup, and if we live by his commandment of love, then we will enter war knowing that one day there will be no more war and no more veterans. No more war. Because we believe in the promise of our God, who says that there will be peace on earth and goodwill to everybody. Can you imagine that day? For it is that day we pray for at this altar. It is that day that we sing about in TAPS. This is why I think that TAPS is a major triad. Dum-pa-dum, bum-pa-dum. A major and a glorious triad, rather than a minor sad one. because for family and for country and for God. It is major because it hopes in a jubilant way that one day we will sing taps as we bury war, as we bury our guns, and as our swords are turned into plowshares and our guns into pruning hooks. We sing taps, not only for the dead who have died so valiantly, but it is the major triad that boldly declares the end and the death of death. The death of death in the promise of Jesus Christ, who calls us together to find complete joy in his love. Dun ta dum, dun ta dum, dun ta da la la da dum pa dum, dun ta dum. Someday there will be peace. Dun ta dum.